So let's pick up in verse 3. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. So this is time after. So they've had time to process this. Jesus is like, this temple that you're blown away by is going to get blown away. You know what I'm saying? And now they've had time to think about it. Verse 3, later Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives, and his disciples came to him privately. This is important. This is a private conversation between the believers and Jesus. The believers and Jesus are having a conversation, and they came to him privately and said, tell us, when will all this happen? That's one question. What sign will signal your return? That's a second question. And when will the end of the world happen? That's the third question. There's three questions that we see happen. And now I want you to understand, this is not a public sermon. Jesus is not blasting this to everybody to hear. It's the insiders. It's for believers. And they ask three questions. When will what you just said, Jesus, when will the temple be destroyed? When will that happen? And secondly, what is the sign of your coming? Do you see what's happening? And rightfully so, what they do is they connect Jesus coming back, because he's been telling them, I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back. And then they connect it to the end of the age, which is right. So Jesus takes the next 2 chapters of Matthew. This is called the Olivet Discourse. You've probably heard of it. It's a very profound, important message by Jesus to believers, and he explains and unpacks these questions and the answers to these questions. Biblical prophecy. So let's go ahead and look at it. In this question, in verse 4, it's interesting. Jesus told them, don't let anyone mislead you. I want to keep it there. Stop there for a second. Verse 4. The questions they ask, Jesus doesn't say, hey, don't worry about it. It'll all pan out. Jesus doesn't say, well, you know what? That's a mystery, not for you to know. No, Jesus says, well, let me tell you. Let me unpack this for you. Let me focus in on this. I want you to understand a few things. He wants us believers to know what the world is going to be like before he returns. He wants you and me to know some indicators, some signs of things that are going to be taking place in the world before he returns. It's very clear. So let's find out what these signs are. Verse 4, Jesus told them, don't let anyone mislead you. Very important. Jesus wants us to know about the end. If you're taking notes, Jesus wants us to know about the end. Don't let people mislead you on this, Jesus says. He says very clearly, don't let anyone mislead you. I want you to know what's going to happen, because he wants us to clearly understand the signs of the times before he comes back. Do you catch that? It's super easy. It's not complicated. And so I think what can happen in the church world is we can complicate things, and we can misconstrue things, or we avoid maybe controversial things. Well, Jesus says right here, I want you to know, and I don't want people to mislead you on this. 1/3 of the whole Bible is prophecy. And here I am, I'm going to tell you some things that are going to happen. And I want you to know them, and for you and me, we get to see them. So let's find out what these signs are. Verse 5, Jesus continues, don't let anyone mislead you. Verse 5, for many will come in my name claiming I'm the Messiah. They will deceive many. So the first sign that I want to highlight is spiritual deception. Spiritual deception. As a matter of fact, in verse 11, if you're to look further down, he says it again, and many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Anytime Jesus repeats something, it's worth us repeating, right? Jesus wants you to know one of the signs before he returns is that there's going to be great spiritual deception. Now, I want you to remember this. Jesus says in Scripture, in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, throughout his ministry, he always says that he's the answer. As a matter of fact, there's one particular time in the Gospels where Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. Exclusive. He is the solution to the problems of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to God except through me, Jesus says.